What up, though? Ty Mopkins. Welcome to the first ever episode of 𝗙𝗢𝗟𝗪𝗪, a Detroit Pistons limited series podcast. You may ask yourself, well, what is 𝗙𝗢𝗟𝗪𝗪? Well, 35 represents the 1989 Bad Boys, and 20 represents the '04 Going to Work Piston team. Tune in all this series, and you can find out what's going on and who we have on the show. So let's jump into our first episode with the original bad boy, Rick Mahorn.
Hangs out of the ball, flips it up to the rafters. Detroit is the city of champions again.
Today, we have a man who needs no introduction, but I will anyway. 18-year NBA vet, a bad boy for life, and one of my favorite Pistons, Rick Mahorn.
Hello, Ty. How are you, sir?
I'm okay, man. I'm great. How are you?
I'm very, very happy that I'm sitting here with you. You heard the buzzer, so that means your time's up.
Right,
no, your time's up.
That quick?
You can use it. You use it. This is all good, man. You know how we do. You make it work. This is Detroit, right?
I appreciate it.
We make it work. So let's get it in.
We put it together. Okay.
Yeah.
So quick question, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot about you just by being one of your brothers and a great friend. But where did it all start for you when you started playing basketball?
I guess it started for me in what facet? You mean when did I start learning how to play?
High school.
You need a bio?
Yeah, give me all that.
Well, I never played basketball until my senior year in high school.
Okay.
So when I was, I had a growth spurt from the junior to my senior year, 11th to 12th year. And then I was playing football. I was more of a football player than I was a better football player than basketball player.
Really?
But it was the fact that you don't know what God has in store for you. And I just wanted to play football and basketball. And then I was recruited highly in the Big Ten and SEC for football. I was All-American in high school.
Okay.
Defensive end. I wasn't too shabby. If I was getting a bunch of these letters, I had a shoebox full of football letters of intent and all that stuff. But ended up, deciding that it was too cold outside. It's cold in the D, so I didn't feel like getting out and trying to do that. Then Hampton, this guy, I guess somebody called Hampton and said, and back then, recruiting was totally different.
All right.
And it was more word of mouth. And the guy, Hank Ford, the head coach at Hampton, said, hey, you want to come visit? So I came to visit. But at that time, it was illegal to bring your mother. So I said, can I bring my mom? So
right.
She, and they gave us 2 tickets on Piedmont Airlines. No, Allegheny Airlines.
Wow.
And we flew down to Newport News and got over to the campus and walked around the campus. School was out and everything was letting out. And next thing you know, a young lady that was in school a year before me was attending school. But everybody from school was gone. People weren't even on the yard, but never realized that this was a black college and never realized that this young lady called my nickname from high school. And I just said, okay. And my mother really loved it. She loved the coaches. And I decided to go to Hampton, but I ended up going to visit Seton Hall. And I looked at the guy, he told me I probably won't play that year or whatever. I don't know. I never got into any of the logistics of it. But I ended up just choosing Hampton.
Okay.
Division II, black college. When I got there, it was just a great marriage for just me being on campus, learning to get an education. And that's what my mother's main goal was. She asked the coaches, will he get a good education? And the first thing they said, and they weren't lying about it, I got a great education from Hampton Institute, now university.
Right. So how was that whole HBCU experience back in those days?
Well, it was always having to prove yourself. Going to a historically black college at that particular time, it was always saying that you're kind of inferior. And it kind of ticked me off because I thought we were all equals.
Right.
But when you look at the lay of the land, it's still the segregation, the different views of how people are, viewed as color, not being equal to that the next person can be just as good as you. So I think that attitude kind of grew in there, where always being the underdog. And I always thought I always bet on underdogs because underdogs fight harder.
Yes, they do. So in 1979, CIAA Player of the Year.
It should have been 3-time Player of the Year.
Really?
But you know what? Politics, even in historically black colleges, you look at it It was a guy, Big House Gaines, who is really a known basketball coach that won multiple games, coached 𝗙𝗢𝗟𝗪, Monroe, and they won a national championship with him. But he was well respected, Big House Gaines. And it was like, okay, my second year, I averaged 24 points.
Right.
And I was coming off the bench at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden I had that breakout year because my freshman year I only averaged 5 points and 5 rebounds or something like that and that kind of thing. And I was coming off the bench. Still awkward, not knowing the game of basketball. But, hey, came back the following year and averaged 24 and 12 or something like that and made All-American. And so when, you know, it was other guys that were in our league, the CIAA, that were, were they better? I don't know, but I didn't know politics. I didn't know the political game of anybody trying to not have you win, or they pick you when to win it. So I won it my junior year, should have won it my senior year because I was a 3-time All-American. I was, so that they just wanted to make sure that they spreaded the wealth. I don't know, but I really didn't give a damn.
So I want to double back because you said that somebody called you by your nickname. What was that nickname?
I'm not telling nobody that nickname because then people start calling me. I keep that at home. I keep that in Connecticut. And I don't understand. People call you know how, Ty, you've been around a lot of people. They'll call you different names.
Oh, yeah.
You know, people your homeboys will probably call you one name.
Yep.
And then the girls will probably call you another name. But, you know that these people know you when that name comes out. So I don't share it, but when I go back home, they call, You
hear it all the time.
I hear it all the time, and my head turning like a swivel. Or if I'm in Detroit, I don't really respond to Rick. But when someone, as my mother gave me the nickname Ricky. And so my sisters, my family still calls me Ricky, and, or Uncle Ricky. They don't call me Uncle Rick, but they know that was the name. And when I was in college, it was Ricky Mahorn. So when I go back to the yard, that people that know me, that's Ricky Mahorn, I turn my head quick.
Yeah, because I noticed when you sign your autographs, you sign it Ricky Mahorn. Okay.
And when you get in the league, coming from Hampton and got to the Washington Bullets, they shortened it.
Wow.
And the fact of the matter, hey, I'm in the pros. I didn't care what they called me, as long as they ain't called me late on my check.
As long as the name was right on the check. So we probably get a lot of flack for this when you say Hampton, right? So Hampton is the real HU.
No. And I can sit here and say it no, with a stern no. We were in Hampton Institute. Okay. Howard University was Howard University.
Okay.
And they were Howard University from my lifetime going there. Okay. We were HI. And now it's HIU as they changed the names as we progressed in a way in growth. And, changed it from institute to university. So also when I got into the NBA, it kind of put a chip on my shoulder. Somebody, he's institutionalized. He just got out of jail or something like that. You hear that, and you go like, "Are you for real?" It's a college. It's you got MIT, you got all these technical institutes, you got all these
Georgia Tech,
Georgia Tech, but yet they don't give it the respect of that. You get a good education, and again, there's a separation: black college, white college. So I didn't go to Duke. I didn't go to North Carolina. I ain't go to no D1 school. When I started to play against those guys, I wanted to kill them. I wanted to kick their ass. Because one thing that I knew, basketball is not, you don't put yourself saying I'm better than you because I go to Duke University. Right. You don't say I'm better than you because I go to ODU University. You're better than me if you're a better basketball player. And that's when I started playing in these tournaments, the Aloha Classic, the Pizza Hut tournament, those things like that. Nobody knew who I was, Division II. Guy that I look at it now, I look at Jack Sikma, who was from a Division III.
There you go.
And then I look at Truck Robinson. And then you look at Willis Reed, but he's the Division I. But then I look at 𝗙𝗢𝗟𝗪𝗪 Monroe and Bobby Dandridge, people that are from Division II school that knew how to play basketball to win championships in this league and be competitive.
Okay. Draft day comes. You get drafted by the Washington Bullets. How did that feel?
I don't know. I was asleep. They don't have it like, we don't, it's not all that hoopla here. now it's a scene.
It's extravaganza.
It's this big beautiful tournament that he's the number 2 pick. I'm a number 2 pick. I'm the 35th pick in a 1980 draft, and I outlasted everybody that was drafted before me and after me. So when you look at that, when people look at it, Joe Barry Carroll was the first pick. You had Kevin McHale in that draft, Darrell Griffin. You had just had a whole bunch of guys that went to these big schools that were, so quote unquote supposed to be the best players in at that particular time in the world. So my thing was, I didn't care. I knew how to play basketball. Division II, yeah, but I made noise, and that's the thing about it. You get a chance, an opportunity, you stamp that, and we only have one HBCU guy in here, and he just got traded from the Clippers back to Philadelphia, and we had a chance here in Detroit. He started in the G League here when they were in Grand Rapids at that particular time, and that's Robert Covington.
That's right. I want you to touch, how did it feel like walking on an NBA court for the first time as a professional?
Didn't know I was there.
Really?
I didn't know I was playing basketball till my 3rd year. And the fact of the matter, I love playing basketball. I was just enjoying what I did. I got paid to play a game that I enjoyed because it was fresh and new to me, and didn't realize I was in the NBA till I was dating this young lady out in Oakland, California. She lived in Berkeley, and we just got finished playing the Celtics in a dog fight of a playoffs. So I'm out there relaxing, enjoying the sunshine, and I get the newspaper, the San Francisco Times or whatever it is out there at that particular time, and I read my name in the newspaper, and that's when I realized I was in the NBA.
Okay.
Because the only thing I was doing was just playing a game and enjoying what the hell I was doing.
Okay. So the year 1985 comes, and you come to the greatest franchise of all time, the Detroit Pistons. What was your first thought when you found out you was coming here?
Hated it.
Why?
I didn't like Isaiah. I didn't like Bill Laimbeer.
Okay.
Because we were competitors. Back then we were competitors. But then when I got here, it's like it's raining, it's gloomy, it's ugly. And the last time I remember being in Detroit, we played a school here, Shaw University, which is no longer here. But we played in a basketball tournament, and we stayed right at the Rinsen. So we're in, it was a Christmas tournament, and it was cold, ugly, and nasty. And I was like, I hate Detroit. When I got here, I didn't want to be in Detroit. In fact, Isaiah was the first person to call me when I got traded, and he called me on my private number, and I didn't even know how he got that. But he called, and I knew who it was. And when I got here, I didn't accept being in Detroit. I still didn't like it. I ended up my career, I probably almost ate myself out of the league because I didn't want to be here. I didn't like it.
Okay.
But, had an epiphany. Jack McCluskey had an epiphany too, where he pulled me to the side. Well, you know what? If you don't lose weight coming back here next year, because I traded for you for what you do. And he said, if you don't come back here back then in Earl Curitan, if you ever talked to him, he could tell you the story. They used to call me Tubby Submarine. It's like they used to sing that, and I didn't know what the hell that meant.
Really?
And then the fact of the matter, we played the Atlanta Hawks. And, people can be mean with words, playing the Atlanta Hawks, and Doc Rivers and a few other them guys was like, look at the fat boy, and laughing and stuff like that. And we lost. And you know what? I took all that. I took it, put it in my pocket, okay? Put it in that bank and said, you know what? Next year be totally different. And so I went, saw a nutritionist and everything, and never came back up here in the summer. Still had my apartment at the riverfront, but nobody saw me. But I was living in D.C. because I had my house there still in D.C., but I would play in the summer league in D.C. Then I'd drive up, then as I was going home to Connecticut, I'd stop in Philly and play in the Baker League. And then from the Baker League, I'd go play in the Ruckers, which was in New York. So I'm stopping in between, playing a game every other day, but then get to Connecticut, play at home outside. And, back then they had the summer leagues outside.
Right.
And played in the Hartford tournament, played there, then stopped in New York because my girlfriend at that time lived in New York, played in the Ruckers, then after playing there, stay there a couple of days, and then come back home, go to Philly, play in the Baker League, then go back to and play in the Urban Coalition in D.C. So it was like a repetitive going like that all the way up down the East Coast and being very, very professional, not necessarily professional, but playing ball. And then meantime, at that time I had my Doberman. I had Ferdy, and my dog was she was the best. And she would run with me. At night, we'd run the park in combat boots. I did the old school stuff. I went back to the old brick and mortar and doing a bunch of push-ups, sit-ups, and working out in the morning, playing ball up at UConn, up at the University of Connecticut, playing up there against Cliff Robinson at that time, bless his heart. But Cliff used to mess with him, call him Grace Jones at that time, because he had that high-top fade looking like Grace Jones. But it was the fact that we used to go up there and play, pick up, and then it was on the same thing all the way. This was a routine, a big circle, kept going. Then when I came to when it was time for training camp, because nobody saw me on the team.
There you go.
And when they saw me, it was like, wow. Because I came back, I was at like 245.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, let's ball. Didn't start either. The first 5 games, they just drafted Sally.
That's right.
He was starting. Then they took Sally. Sally couldn't do nothing but block some shots. But he was, he's athletic.
Right.
They started him. There was the first pick, and they had Dennis Rodman at the same time. But at that same time, they had Sidney Green.
I forgot about Sidney Green.
And Chuck put Sidney Green in. The only reason he didn't start me from the beginning was because I was the backup center as well.
Okay.
So then Chuck just made it official, because I was on the second team with Vinnie Johnson, and we were killing the first team every day. Our practices were the most competitive practices that you could ever see. In fact, that's when we knew we were really good, because Vinnie was always busting Joe's butt, Isaiah's butt, and he wanted to play because Vinnie wanted to take their job. He should have been, we had guys like Buddha wasn't even there yet. But our second team was so good that we would beat our first team, first team to 7. But that was, kind of like the peak of us being those bad boys. Or at that time, it was Motor City bad guys.
Motor City, yeah.
So I just sit there, that's what I did. That was my job, to be the enforcer.
So on your return here back, I want to touch on something that you stated too. You said you played at the Rucker. Did you get a lot of that mentality from the Rucker? Because if you think about the Rucker, it's almost like bad boy basketball in a way. The way it's run and gun, physical, and things like that.
It wasn't really run and gun. It was more physical, because if you lose, you're sitting on the sideline.
Yeah.
But where that attitude came from, I have a football mentality.
There you go.
And having a football mentality, playing basketball, I remember the Lions, when we used to play at the Silverdome, they used to yell. They had their little cat call walking around saying, "Hey, Mahorn, you need to be over here on this side playing the game." And I yelled back to them. I said, "I ain't stupid. Y'all ain't guaranteed you be here today, and they won't have to pay you for the rest of the year. At least I'm guaranteed." And then they would come back after you see us shooting out there when Chuck and everybody left. They'd be sitting there, and then Lomas Brown and then would get on the court with Jerry Ball. And they would all think they can play, and I would hit them like they was, they was like, "You need to be playing football." I said, "Why? I don't need to be playing football. I could do this in basketball."
So it was a dream come true for you when the Pistons took on that Raider mentality. Well, when the Raiders reached out and merged, like almost where the Bad Boys became like the Raiders of the NBA.
It was fun because we had identity.
Right.
A lot of teams, you had Showtime Lakers, you had the Celtics, and the way they played, they were bully ball too. They played a very physical style of play. It was not, everybody thought we just really brought that, but that's just the mentality of being a basketball player was not losing in a pickup game. Because if you go to the streets and you go playing at the best park, and you got all the best basketball players in that whole park, why you want to be sitting on the sideline? You want to be the one on the throne. And that's where the mentality, other than the football mentality that I had, where I wanted to be physical enough not to, just go out there and hurt and maim anybody. It was just the fact that, hey, I'm going to use my physical assets to stop anything that you do. So that's where, to me, that was more like a pickup game. We didn't want to lose a game and sit there for 4 games and then get back on the court.
Yeah. So tell me about the grind, right? Because I've been blessed to see all 3 championships like you have too, and you've been a part of them. Whether it was
if we'd have played, I could tell you now,
yeah,
if we'd have played in that second in 1990 and Charles Barkley would have hit Michael, it would have been it would have been. I put it to you this way, and I know we can't go back in the past and change anything.
Right.
Pistons ain't want none of me because I knew everybody, and then when I would come back to visit, especially when I came with Philly, even that year we beat them 3-1 during the season. And then when I would come, I would stay at Buddha's house. And Bill was still, you consider him a friend. I would call him. I said, "What's up, Bill? I can't talk to you. You're the enemy," which I respected.
Yeah.
Because, he wanted to keep it separate. That's basketball. I'm playing against you, but I would go see Vinny and Buddha when they come to the hotel, or I'd hang out with them when I come here. We'd hang out. But when we got on that court for 48 minutes, I hated their guts. That's how you're supposed to play. I ain't got no damn friends. If you got some damn friends playing like, oh, that's my boy, then fuck your boy. Sorry if I don't know if I could use that, but that's not basketball.
Right.
I ain't your buddy.
Right.
I would fight my brother, and almost had 3 fights with my brother playing in a game in Connecticut, and that's my blood. So you get that emotion and you get that kind of, that mentality. I don't care. If I'd had to play my mother, I'd have played her just as hard as I'd play anybody else. But after that time was up, I love you. You know who your friend is after the fact, that we can go out and go have some dinner. We had the Malice at the Palace, the first one. It was Buddha. You saw Buddha and I, if you ever look at the film. Buddha and I was going at it. I was staying at his house. But, we sitting there, because, we sitting there going like, he's pulling on my shirt, and I'm like, and the only reason why I didn't do anything, because the crowd started moving close to my daughter. Yeah. My daughter flew in town to come hang out with my sister at that time. And she was sitting right there where all this stuff started to flow. But at that time, I was like, I don't care who you are. Touch my kid, I'm going to kill you.
I think during the 87 and even the 88 season, you guys became obsessed and really possessed with winning. That's when I knew we wasn't far behind. And I knew that, especially in 88, with the Phantom Foul and all that's supposed to have been our ship too, right? Tell me how that whole 89 season was for you.
Well, the 89 season, Bill said something in the 88 season that the Phantom Foul, we looked at it, and you mathematics, key. Yeah. Mathematics is key. Yeah. We had to get the home court advantage. In order to have the home court advantage, if we're tied, they got to come to our house. Because that year in 89, we almost we looked past the Washington Bullets, and they were up, and we're in a dogfight. They steal one here and then they win one down there, but we had to win down there. They were up 2-1, and we going like, oh man, what do you want to mess this season up? So we came to grips. Yeah, we went at it, but we realized that we had to have the best record, but it wasn't to solidify that we had to take care of our business. So if we ever got to a game 7 in any situation, we had the home court advantage where we can do it and try to win. Instead, we just swept all the way through everybody.
Man, that was definitely a time when the clock went 0. I remember just watching the video. You and Sally, you just putting up the number 1, and you just talking it. What was that, like a circle of completion for you right then and there? Like, did everything come full circle from Hampton to everything to right now?
The goal in basketball is to win. I don't care, you look at it, it's not like, what are you going on the court for? You're not going on there to be nice, play nice. You're going there, your job is to win championships. A lot of times, and I'm gonna put it out there, you hear, oh, we're not good enough. Right. Why are you giving these narratives that you're not good enough? Well, apparently you got to get the people who want to win a championship. Okay. You're going to make it, the money's there. You're going to make money. Do you want rings? You want something to say, I did it. You don't want something to say, yeah, okay. Am I Karl Malone where I never had a ring? Am I Charles Barkley where I never had a ring? And Charles is a good friend of mine. But one thing I got above him, he got Olympic medal and all that stuff. I walk up to him, but you ain't got a ring. You ain't winning this chip. I got a chip. I'm not, and I worked to get that chip. And nobody really understands when these guys get drafted. What am I missing? Sometimes it's a disconnect and people think old school players, they think we're jelly over this, I'm not jelly. You make a lot of money, but the owners make a lot of money too. But the fact of the matter, put it in perspective, you can make more if you win.
Exactly.
If you don't win, it's like, okay, well, let's just shuffle everybody around until we get the right combination. Because they traded Dan Roundfield for me to come up here to take this position and do what I did, but I disappointed them. And then I could tell you the disappointment hurt me because I didn't want to be here.
Right.
But then I embraced Detroit. I started becoming Detroit. I started going in Detroit, finding out what to do. Because in D.C., it was a lot. It was so much there that I didn't have to go too far to do things. Here, it was like I had to go from here to here to here, and you needed a car.
Yeah.
And so the fact that it was cold and it was in this, but it was always the grind of Detroit that you embrace that city as the city grows on you. And I made Detroit home now.
And that's why we love you, man, because I tell anybody, the Pistons organization is probably the only organization that really adapt a Detroit way of life. Because me personally, I tell people all the time, you and Isaiah gave us our voice when we was voiceless. Like everybody would talk about LA, New York, Chicago. And it's like, well, hold on, we got something to say too. So as a city, especially in the inner city, you, Isaiah, everybody gave us our voice. You gave us that grit. You gave us that title to stand up and say, hey, you know what? Hey, we from Detroit too. And when your career, right, you played for 4 different franchises, the Nets, Bullets, 2 stints with the Sixers and 2 stints with us. I want to touch back on the Barkley thing as well too, because you guys, you went from bad boys and now you became.
Nah, I'll give it to you. I went from Beef Brothers to Bad Boys to Bump and Thump.
That's right.
And and I always say the common theme and all that was me. And I didn't never realize that till later in life, but it's just the fact that I guess I embraced something to bring something. And I brought it here and I brought it to Philly. And that kept me being more responsible, being where you never saw me in trouble,
right?
But there's always respect.
Right. Well, I know we love you here. So after your stints, right, you came back and then you closed it out with the Pistons.
No, I closed it out with Philly.
That's right, you did. Okay.
Yeah, my last year was Philly.
So talk about, well, you talked about it a little bit, right? Because I remember the skirmish, you and Buddha, and I was like, oh my God, they fighting. Oh my God, why, just why? What triggered that moment anyway?
Well, it was Barkley and we were all, Barkley, let me tell you, is he's fun. People know he's funny.
Right.
But when we were in the locker room, we're coming up there, Barkley writes something on a piece of paper. I would never say what was on it. And told the ball boy to get at the Bill Lambier.
Whoa.
And so Bill Bill is a competitor. That's what I love about Bill. He couldn't jump over a stack of quarters, but one thing about it, he was going to play as hard as he could because he had that kind of mentality. So long story short, it was the time Charles and I were coming into the game.
Right.
And we were doing the skit from House Party, I think it was.
Yeah, with the leg kick and dance.
Yeah, no. That was Cedric Sabathia. We whooped up on them. That's another story when I was with Philly. But it was something about, remember the Full Force? And they were chasing him.
Oh, yeah.
And what you smell?
Yeah, you smell.
Yeah, and we yelled, that out. And it was like, okay. And then that's when that all popped off because we got back in the game. And I dunked on Rodman. And that's when you even look at Rodman's retirement jersey here. He said, and at his end, nobody heard it. I did. And he said, I'm not your. And I said, yep, you still are. But the fact of the matter is that's the growth of people remembering what I influenced
Exactly.
on people. So I kind of like, every time I see Worm, y'all call him Rodman, y'all call him whatever y'all want. That's Worm, and Worm knows that I owned him. I owned Sally. They knew when I came to work, they knew they had to make sure they put their hard hat on in their backpack in their lunch pail.
Okay. So when it's all said and done, playing career over, you went into coaching, right? Atlanta Hawks.
Next.
Then you came back.
It wasn't that I went to Atlanta Hawks. Isaiah called me and asked me, did I want to coach? I said, why not? I'm not doing anything. My phone wasn't ringing. Philly wasn't calling me. They wanted, what was his name? Charles Shackelford, I think it was, who got it. No, Stanley Roberts.
Oh, wow.
And he got caught doing the drugs or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, long story short, Zeke called because he owned at that time the CBA. And he said, Ricky, do you want to come? Darrell Walker just took the job with the Washington Wizards at the time because Michael was running it back then. And Michael and Darrell Walker are good friends. So Darrell left the team in Rockford, Illinois. And Brendan Sir as well. They both called me and said, do I want to coach? I said, nah, I ain't doing nothing. I was doing some TV for Philadelphia. So I went to Rockford, Illinois. The team was in last place. They were in last place. When I got there, we were in first place. They were almost won. And that championship I really wanted. I wanted it so bad we went to the finals and lost. But it was something about coaching that kind of triggered because basically I was coaching as a player anyway. And then Atlanta hired me. And, rest is history because then when I came back to Detroit, I knew I can come back to Detroit and do some things, and I brought the family back here, and this is what we're going to do. We just decided to come here, moved here. Bill was like, okay, you want to coach? I said, sure, Bill, I'll do it. I'm do something in the summer.
Right.
And then those girls, those young ladies that we had were bad girls because only thing that, you look at it, the Cheryl Fords, the Kara Braxtons, Swing Cashes, Nolan, Tweety Nolan and Ruth Riley. It was like that. Bill and them just won a championship the year before. Well, a couple of years I was there. I was doing their television and all that. So Bill said, hey, you want to coach? I coached with him. Won 2 more championships there with the Shock. And that's how, then I just ended up just working for the Pistons.
Now, how many years you been radio?
Hell if I know. I don't even, half the time, I don't even know what year it is. I just do it because I love doing it.
And you was one of the first coaches for the Big Three as well, too.
Yep. And one thing about it is the camaraderie. A lot of times you play this game and you know who your real friends are, but then you know the camaraderie that you miss. As a basketball player, if you still can't have that competitive edge, you're going to miss the camaraderie. And that helped out a lot because I beat up all those guys there. The Dr. J's, the Icemans. I had a team that went through there. We were undefeated. Right. Won that championship, and the first championship with the Big Three. And it was just fun to see Gary Payton cry a little bit, and, Doc and sometimes Michael Cooper. This was competitive from a standpoint of the coaching side, but also competitive that I had some players that wanted to win that championship.
So we might as well say you got like the Midas touch. Everywhere you go, you win championships, brother.
I got one overseas too. I got one when I went overseas with the Rome team. We won the Cup of Korak. Now it's the Euro Cup, but I won that one there too. So I got a little change, a little ching, whatever they call it.
So I don't know if you noticed, this is a limited series podcast, right? 35-20. 35 is you. You are an integral part of that. 35 years ago, your team, the Bad Boys, brought the first title here to Detroit. What is your favorite part about that 89 season? Besides the obvious, but what is your favorite part of it?
That I knew I was a winner, but it was the up and it also the down because I was left unprotected. So when I was left unprotected and got picked up in the expansion draft by Minnesota, it kind of hurt because I wasn't able to come back here and protect it. You people look at it, what if? I look at it, a new path in life. God gave me another plan where I went to Philadelphia to share my talents, and I'm beloved in Philadelphia, and I didn't play there that long, but I go back to Philadelphia, and it's like, Rick, you hear that, you hear the bump and thump. They know that I came there to work every night. And that's the thing about it. People people that use their hard-earned money to come see a product on the court, give them a good damn show. Not just come here and just fleece their money and play like come here, they want to see a game. I don't never want to see crowds boo me, especially not boo the team that I'm on the team playing with. So a lot of times people, don't take it for granted. Philadelphia, they're just as hard as Detroit. And I mean, their fans, they'll fight you. It's a couple of guys that played for Philly that was rooting for DC, the Redskins. I think it was a little skirmish in the crowd, that it was a player that played for Philadelphia 76ers, but he was a Redskin fan. And he went to the, tailgate, and they were fighting. It's crazy.
So question, if we put together a box that we had to bury for it to be opening up 35 years from now as a capsule, what was the one thing you would put in that? That way you pull it up, they can remember Ricky Mahorn by.
I can't even think of anything. One thing about it, while you're alive, they give you flowers while you take them. Because if that box and I'm not there to see it, I wouldn't know what I put in there anyway. All I know, I'd put my heart in there and see if this is the heart that Ricky Mahorn left for this game, for Detroit.
Well, like I said, brother, just speaking from a kid from the west side of Detroit, man, you gave us our voice and our heart, man, and we would never stop giving you flowers as many times as we see you, because you deserve them.
I appreciate that. And Detroit gets my flowers all the time. Where you from? I'm from the D.
Yeah, of course, because you ain't going nowhere. You ours. You stuck with us, brother.
Yeah, I'm stuck with the what up, though.
There you go. There you go. There you go. So now we're going to make a transition, right? So our friends at Allegiant Air would like to know, what are the 3 essential things you'll put in your travel bag every time you go on the road?
Well, the first thing I do, I look for a cologne.
Okay.
And a lot of times, you like to smell good.
Right.
You don't want to be funky on the plane. You don't want to be funky in the game. You bring some nice cologne.
Okay.
My other thing is I got this electric toothbrush.
Okay.
I love my toothbrush. I mean, this is the one that you go, you felt good. The timer's 3 minutes, and my water pick. Those are the 3 essential things that those are a must have. Because you could wash all your clothes, you could do all that stuff on the road, but if you don't have the right toothbrush and that water pick and the right cologne, you're gonna be pretty sorry. Because we got stuck this year on a 1-day trip.
Okay.
I was all right because I had my water pick. I could rinse out my clothes. I had my cologne, and it was always a supply of the condiments in there that you could use, your lotion and the hair shampoo and all that stuff. That's all. Those are the 3 things that I take.
That was the season when y'all was stuck in Texas, right?
Last year, we were stuck in Texas for 4 days on a 1-night trip. Ooh. But I was comfortable because all I could do is, if I had to do something, socks, we can ask the equipment man for some socks. And the rest, you already have your shorts. You got, And one more thing I do like to bring is my pajamas. Okay. I like to have comfortable pajamas depending on where we are. If we're in Minnesota, they're long. If we're in Miami, they're short. It just depends on, you look at the weather. But those 3 essential things, the cologne, my water pick, and my toothbrush.
Well, Rick, I think we touched on everything, man. 35 years later, you still here, still a bad boy, and we love you for that, man. So anything you want to say in closing?
Well, I tell you, man, everybody got to stay tuned because it's just one of many. And this podcast to me was one of the best because, I got to know you while I'm up here in Detroit. Yep. But I also got to know the fans, that they love this city, they love this team, and they love all the teams, the sports teams in here. So they better stay tuned for some more episodes.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode. You can always watch us on YouTube at Pistons TV, or you can listen to the podcast on Apple and Spotify.